screen sharing.
No. I cannot switch. The verse? Can see the verse? Reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 35. Yajñātvā na punarmoham evam yasyasi pandava yena bhutani aseshani trayakshasi atmani atho mayi. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation. Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge, you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, they are mine. Please repeat. Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge, you will see that all living beings are but a part of the Supreme, or in other words, they are mine. Purport. The result of receiving knowledge from a self-realized soul, or one who knows things as they are, is learning that all living beings are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. The sense of an existence separate from Krishna is called Maya. Ma, not Ya, this. Something that we have nothing to do with Krishna, that Krishna is only a great historical personality, and that the Absolute is the impersonal Brahman. Actually, as it is stated in Bhagavad Gita, this impersonal Brahman is personal effulgence of Krishna. Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of everything. In the Brahma Samhita, it is clearly stated that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes. Even the millions of incarnations are only his different expansions. Similarly, the living entities are also expansion of Krishna. The Mayavadi philosopher wrongly thinks that Krishna loses his own separate existence in his many expansions. This thought is material in nature. We have experienced in the material world that a thing, when fragmentally distributed, loses its own original identity. But the Mayavadi philosophers fail to understand that absolute means that 1 plus 1 is equal to 1 and 1 minus 1 is equal to 1. This is the case in the absolute world. For want of sufficient knowledge in the absolute science, we are now covered with illusion, and therefore we think that we are separate from Krishna. Although we are separated parts of Krishna, we are nevertheless not different from him. The bodily difference of the living entities is Maya, or not actual fact. We are all meant to satisfy Krishna. By Maya alone, Arjuna thought that the temporary bodily relationship with his kinsman was more important than his eternal spiritual relationship with Krishna. The whole teaching of Bhagavad Gita is targeted toward this end, that a living being as Krishna's eternal servitor cannot be separated from Krishna, and his sense of being an identity apart from Krishna is called Maya. The living entities as separate parts and parcel of the Supreme have a purpose to fulfill. Having forgotten that purpose since time immemorial, they are situated in different bodies as men, animal, demigods, etc. Such bodily differences arise from forgetfulness of the transcendental service of the Lord. But when one is engaged in transcendental service through Krishna consciousness, one becomes at once liberated from this illusion. One can acquire such a pure knowledge only from a bona fide spiritual master, and thereby avoid the delusion that the living entity is equal to Krishna. Perfect knowledge is that the Supreme Soul Krishna is the supreme shelter of all living entities, and giving up such shelter, the living entities are deluded by material energy, imagining themselves to have a separate identity. Thus, under the different standards of material identity, they become forgetful of Krishna. When, however, such deluded living entities become situated in Krishna consciousness, it is to be understood that they are on the path of liberation, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 2.10.6. Muktir hitva anyata rupam swarupena vyavastiti. Liberation means to be situated in one's constitutional position as the eternal servitor of Krishna, Krishna consciousness. So this verse, today's verse, actually 435. The previous verse, Krishna is saying, Tat pidi pranipartena pariprashnanya seva upadekshanditya jnanam jnanina tattva darshina. So one should approach the spiritual master to know the truth. See, so now, right now, we are now in the situation where we are all covered by illusion. It's called Maya. Just like yesterday was a New Year, right? So we saw in the YouTube, somebody shared a video in Clarke. Even though there was so much of restrictions, so many people gathered in Clarke just to do that countdown. 10, 9, 8. If you don't count down, you don't feel like it's a New Year. And then they will shout, everybody will shout Happy New Year, and then they will drink some alcohol and have some party. For one night they are happy, and next day they come home, same old life, same old job, same old everything is the same salary, same workload. So this is, we are already suffering an illusion, and we are trying to do some, trying to have another illusion to forget this illusion. Like now you are in a dream, you are having a bad dream, and then you are trying to manifest another dream to fight this dream. So the solution is to get out of the dream. Why you want to keep dreaming? Sometimes I also have this feeling, when I'm dreaming, I'm getting beaten in the dream, then I'm thinking, hey, this is my dream, why I should be losing? I don't know how I remember that it's a dream, but so I become more powerful in the dream, and but still it's a dream. So that is night dream. In the night we are dreaming for how many hours? Depend on how long you are sleeping. The devotees, we are only supposed to sleep for 6 hours. So if you sleep, if you are in the mode of ignorance you won't see any dream. If you are in the mode of passion, you will see a lot of dreams. In the mode of goodness, you don't see dreams. It's very light. You wake up very quickly. But if you're having a lot of dreams, that is mode of passion. See? So depending on the night time you are sleeping, let's say 8 hours you are sleeping, that's an illusion. You don't even remember you are the body. You come out of the body, you are traveling here, you are doing this, you are doing that. So many things you are doing. You totally forget that you have a wife, you have children, you have a house, you have to pay this much of bills every month, these loans. Then when you wake up, that's another dream. This is a long dream. Maybe you are living for 60, 70 years. We are experiencing this right now as a dream as well. This material body, we are actually, real knowledge means you understand that you are part and parcel of Krishna, as we read in the purport earlier. You understand you are an eternal spirit soul who is supposed to engage in the service of Krishna. So Maya means you are engaging, other than engaging in the service of Krishna, you are engaging in the service of material things. My friends, my family, my society, my nation, everything is about me, for my own, but we forget that the real service is to satisfy Krishna. That's why there is no happiness, because we are so much busy trying to satisfy our own senses. We are in illusion and we are not happy. That's why when you say Happy New Year also, there is no use. See, that's the same thing. And the biggest Maya is, to become a Mayavadi. Because after all this illusion, I am thinking I am this body, I am this person, I am this Indian, I am Chinese, I am Malay, I am Arab, I am American. You are identifying with, sometimes let's say you go on a holiday, let's say you go to Russia, and then you are shopping, and then you saw another Indian, immediately you are attached to them. Why? Hey, you are from India, Which part of India are you from? Why are you talking to him? Because you identify yourself as Indian, and immediately you see another Indian, you are somehow attached to them, even though you are in Russia. You see? So that illusion of identifying with the body. This is me, this is my family, my society, the selfishness extends, and then finally, because every time you try to find happiness in this society, family, friendship, friends, you are disappointed. And finally you think, okay, now if I become God, I'll be the happiest, because God is the supreme enjoyer, right? And when you do that, that is the greatest Maya. When you think that I am God, that's it. That is, Prabhupada said, that is the final snare of Maya. That to think that I am one with Krishna, I am Krishna. You know, there are many people like that, the sannyasi in the Mayavadi Sampradaya, they get initiation, and then they will say, Namo Narayana. That means I am Narayana, you are Narayana, everybody is Narayana. Even the beggar is Narayana. But they do not know who is really Narayana. You see? So that is a very big illusion, to think I am God. So to come out of this illusion, you must take shelter of the self-realized soul, the spiritual master, a bona fide spiritual master, not an ordinary being. So many people saying I am Guru, this Guru, that Guru. You know, yesterday my brother was watching a video on YouTube. Some in Tamil Nadu, there's a man who is possessed by, you know, they have these spirits, the Muniswaran and all these spirits of Shiva, you know. He's called Bhutanath, right? So he has many assistants who are ghosts. He's lord of the ghosts. So there's one person called Karpu Sami. Basically means black. Sami means God, black God. So that guy, he has a Karpu Sami temple and he's possessed, you know. And then he's beating people with whip, beating people up. He's smoking ganja. And the interviewer asking him, why are you telling people to smoke? He said, I'm God. I will smoke anything I want. Who are you to stop me? So you're not that kind of guru, you know. And then cheating people, taking their money. I mean, not only these Indians are doing it. Even if you go to Tamil Nadu, the Catholic, you go to the churches, they're all doing some miracle. I am Christ and I'm healing you, and they do some drama, you know, big drama they are doing to cheat people. So that is not guru. Guru means one who knows Krishna, one who is surrendered to Krishna 100%, fully surrendered to Krishna, and he teaches others the process of how to surrender to Krishna. You know, when they were asking Prabhupada, are you Krishna? He said, no, I am not Krishna. Then he said, I am the servant of Krishna. Then after that he stopped for a while. He said, no, I am the servant of Krishna. In 1970s in ISKCON, you know what happened? 1970s, they constructed the new Vrindavan farm. You know, a very big farm in West Virginia. So they were having an inauguration ceremony. They were installed in the hill, you know, it's all in the hilly areas. So they're constructing the temple there, and they invited Prabhupada, and so many devotees arrived there. And apparently 3 devotees, Brahmananda Swami, Garga Muni, Subal, I mean not me, Subal Das, Subala Das, and one more devotee, Vishnujan Swami. Of course, Vishnujan Swami was not fully involved. These 4 devotees, they came out, they did a conspiracy. Before Prabhupada came, they started to threaten everyone and said, Prabhupada is not Guru, Prabhupada is Krishna. And they started to, you know, hold people by the kurta and said, if you don't worship Prabhupada as Krishna, you are making an offense. And then after a while, they started saying, Prabhupada is not coming because you all have offended Prabhupada. You know, and everybody got so much of tension. They started crying, you know, everybody's like, oh, Prabhupada is not coming because of us, he's leaving us, we did not worship him as Krishna. They did this kind of confusion, you know. And then some devotees were crying and leaving also. You know, then after that Prabhupada heard about it. Immediately he chastised them. He said, what rubbish is this? I am not Krishna. Anybody who says, when a guru says he's Krishna, he's a rascal, number one. And immediately he chastised these 4 devotees, and then he told them to get out. Prabhupada was so strict on them. And then these 4 devotees, they left. They were walking on the road, they don't know where to go because they dedicated their life, right? And then they saw a tree, they lie down under a tree, and somebody came and gave a big basket of fruits to them. Then of course next day Prabhupada called them back and they asked for forgiveness. You see? So you see how strict Prabhupada was, that he did not ever say that he was Krishna at any point of time. You know, he totally repeated exactly what was spoken in the Parampara. You know, if you go to this verse, Bhagavad Gita. एवं परंपरा प्राप्तं इमं राजर्षयो विदु सकालेन महता योग नष्ट परंतपा. The supreme science was thus received through a chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly king understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. So Krishna is saying that this science is coming in parampara, you know, Guru parampara. So the spiritual master, he repeats what is spoken in the parampara. He does not manufacture something new. If you also go to this verse, what is this parampara? Six 320 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Swayambhu Narada Shambhu Kumara Kapilo Manu Praladho Janako Bhishmo Bhalir Vayashaki Vayam. So these 12 great authorities, they are 12 devotees. Swayambhu Narada Shambhu. So Swayambhu is who? Who is this? Brahma, yes. Because he was unborn. I mean, he was not born by a mother. He came from the self born by Vishnu, right? Narada, his son, Sambhu is Shiva, Kumara, Kapiladev, Manu, Prahlada, Janaka, father of Sita, Bhishma. These are the 12 Mahajans. And if you have a parampara which comes from these 12, of course we have 4 mainly: the Brahma Sampradaya, the Kumara Sampradaya, the Sri Sampradaya, Mahalakshmi, and what is it? The other one, Rudra Sampradaya, Shiva. So you have to have a Acharya coming in this line. You see? So we are coming in the Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya. And therefore we are connected to Krishna through this Sampradaya and through our Acharya Srila Prabhupada. And if you take shelter of such a Guru, you will not get into that moha, illusion. And what is that illusion? The illusion is, there's two verses you can see. Number 1, Bhayam Dvitiya Bhineshatasya Ishat Apetasya Viparayo Smriti Tanmaya Yato Buddha Avajati Tham Bhakti Kayesham Guru Devatatma. What is this verse saying? Bhayam Dvitiya Bhineshatasya. If you are in illusion, you are in fear every time. Every moment in the material world, you are feeling fearful. What's going to happen to my survival? Always the fear is there, right? Even the animal, if you see the animal kingdom, there is so much of fear. For you, if you want to drink water, what do? You go to the sink, you on the tap and you drink the water. But for an animal, just to drink a water, he can die any moment. See? He goes to the river, he's drinking, he's looking left and right. Why? Anytime the crocodile will come and bite him. Look behind, there's a lioness waiting. You see? Just to drink water is so much of fear. So the human life, these 4 things, eating, sleeping, mating and defending. Among all these 4 things, the most dangerous is fearing. You're always fearing how to, what will happen in the future. Will I be healthy when I'm old? Will I have enough money for my retirement? You see? We are always fearing. And then we are planning, okay, now I have some money, Maybe I should invest in some cryptocurrency or this currency, or stock market, so that I will have the returns after 10 years. Why we are thinking like that? Because we are fearing. So much in fear. Why? Because we are covered in Maya, illusion. So the fear arises when the living entity misidentifies himself as the material body. Because you think you are this body, this temporary material body, because you think you are this body, you are having so much of fear to maintain this body. But if you know that you are the eternal spiritual soul, who never dies, who is always Satchit Ananda Vigraha. Krishna is Satchit Ananda Vigraha, we are also part and parcel, right? So we are also having that Ananda. So you see, when we misidentify and because of absorption in external illusory energy of the Lord, when the living entity thus turns away from the Supreme Lord, when you turn away, just like when you see when the morning the sun is there, right? It's so bright. But just as the sun goes away, the darkness comes, right? What happens? All the thieves, they come out to do their stealing. But morning, okay, some cases are there. In the morning, they are doing some burglary also. In 10 years ago in Pongal, Sengkang, they were doing. So that guy is a bit intelligent. So the same thing. When there is no light, there is darkness. When you turn away from Krishna, immediately Maya comes. And then what happens? He forgets his constitutional position as the servant of the Lord. He forgets that he is going to serve Krishna, right? And this bewildering, fearful condition is affected by the potency of illusion called Maya. Therefore, an intelligent person, so now is the solution, what to do? How to come out of this Maya? The intelligent person, the sober person, Dhira, he should engage unflinchingly in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord and under the guidance of the spiritual master whom he should accept as his worshipable deity and his very life and soul. So to come out of this Maya, this illusion, to be fearless, we must take shelter of the spiritual master. And what is our spiritual master's name? Full name. What is the AC? What icon? Abhaya Charanaravinda. Fearless lotus feet. You see, his name also is indicating Abhaya Charanaravinda. When you engage in the unflinching service of the spiritual master Prabhupada, Abhaya Charan, you will get Abhaya. The Bhayam goes away. No more fear. Another verse before we share a story, spoken by Prahlad Maharaj. This is spoken by Prahlad Maharaj. He says, Shri Prahlad Vacha Tat Sadhu Manye Asuravarya Dehinam Sada Samudvikna Dhyam Asad Grahat Hitvatma Patam Grahamanda Kupam Vanogato Yat Dharimashrieta. So what is he saying? Shri Prahlad is saying, Tat Sadhu Manye Asuravarya Dehinam. He's talking to Hiranyakashipu, right? His father. And what he is calling his father? Asura Varya Dehinam. He says Asura Varya means best among the demons. Is he glorifying his father like that? Like in modern terms they call it GOAT, GOAT, greatest of all time. You become some great footballer like Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi, he's a GOAT. But what is a GOAT? The GOAT is going to get slaughtered only. Going to get slaughtered. So same thing here. In ancient times, the GOAT is, they say the greatest, Varya, the best of the best. So he's saying, oh Father, the greatest of the demons. Tat Sadhu Mani, as much as I've learned from my spiritual master, Narada Muni. So actually, Hiranyakashipu thought he's going to, this boy, small boy, don't know anything, he's just going to talk something. But you see how he's talking. Dehinam, Prahlad Maharaj say, one who has accepted this material body, as what we saw earlier, the Maya is, you think I am this body, Sada Samuddigna Dhyam Asadgraha. He said that Samuddigna, anxiety. Sada Samuddigna means always in anxiety. One who has accepted this material body is always anxious, always fearing. Why? Because Asadgraha, Sat means truth, Asad means not truth. We are accepting this graham, our house, our family, our children as to be truth. Our real family, Krishna, we are forgetting. Then what happened? Graham anda kupam. Okay, we will see the verse, what he is saying exactly. Prahlad Maharaj said, O best of the Asuras, king of demons, as far as I have learned from my spiritual master, any person who have accepted the temporary body and temporary household life, see, it's a temporary, because this is temporary. My body is temporary, right? My relationship with my family is also temporary. My relationship with this certain house is also temporary. I will not born in the same house again. And I think that this house is home sweet home. This is all in all. I built my house. Like yesterday, I saw some video that just came on my timeline. Some Malay couple, they built their house, HDB house, like a Raffles hotel style. So if you renovate like that, it will cost you almost 200,000 maybe. But that guy, he is intelligent. He went to Carousel, he bought all the second-hand furniture and then he modified it. He has some brains. He's intelligent, so he modified the furniture to look like a Raffles hotel furniture. And they spend so much of time doing that. And of course, if you see the comment section, everybody saying, "Oh, this is a labor of love, and this is so nice." But all these are temporary. It will be finished in another 50, 60 years. Your body will be finished. Then what about this home? Everything is finished. You see, so Prahlad Maharaj saying that if you accept this temporary body and temporary household, he is certainly embarrassed by anxiety. Why? Because you have to keep maintaining them, right? Every moment you are worrying, what is going to happen next? What is going to happen next? Nothing is certain. Why happen? Because of having hitva graham andakupam, having fallen into a dark well where there is no water but only suffering. So what is inside a well is water. We go to the well to drink water, right? But here, this is a well. It's so dark, and you're trapped inside the well. How do you feel? Very fearful, right? If let's say you're trapped in the leaf, how you feel? You cannot come out. In our temple you can feel that sometimes with the leaf. Because we don't have a well in Singapore, so I'm giving the leaf as an example. Imagine you're stuck in the leaf. Not inside the leaf. If you take out the leaf, you are stuck below. In the basement. And then the leaf is coming down to hit you. So it's very, very suffering and very, very, very fearful condition. This is how material life is. It's full of anxiety. It's full of fear because of the illusion of accepting this body as I and mine. You see. So what should you do? Prahlad Maharaj is giving the same advice. One should give up this Vanogatoyam Harimasrayeta. One should give up this position and go to the forest Vana. More clearly, one should go to Vrindavana, where only Krishna consciousness is prevalent, and one should take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he's saying, you give up this, my father, you give up this. You go to Vrindavana and you engage in the worship of Krishna and the sadhus. Sadhu Sangha. Very important. Why Vrindavan? Because it's full of sadhus, full of devotees of the Krishna. And you learn from them how to do Krishna consciousness, and you come out of this illusion, and you come out of this material world of birth and death. You don't accept another body. So this is the message, summary of this message. So now we will going to see a story which is related to this. So what is that story? So this is the story of how Mother Ganga descended onto this earth. So basically this, I do not know the timeline, but this is like millions of years ago. So as you know, how did Ganga even come into the material world? It's when Lord Vamanadev took his incarnation. You know Vamanadev, right? The dwarf incarnation of the Lord. So as you know the story where he goes to help Indra to take, because Bali Maharaj the grandson, is it grandson or great grandson? Grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. So Bali Maharaj is a demon and he took over the entire universe. He's controlling the universe. So Vamanadev wanted to get back the universe into the hands of Indra. Because Bali Maharaj is a demon, but of course he's not only a demon, he's a pure devotee. He's also one of the Mahajans. Just now we saw the 12 Mahajans. So he's actually a very great devotee, but Vamanadev wanted to teach him some humility and show how great Bali Maharaj is. So as you know the story, he asked for 3 pieces of land, 3 steps of land, and he cheated him basically by asking these 3 steps of land. I mean, I cannot explain this story because it's very long. If you do not know, you can go to YouTube. You can see Tatvik Prabhu actually did a series on Vamanadev. So by taking 3 steps, the first step he covered the entire lower planetary system. The second step he covered the entire upper planetary system, and the third step he could not put anywhere. And at that point, Bali Maharaj offered his head. He said, "You put it on my head," and he surrendered to the Lord. Atma Nivedanam. So what happened was, when he put his second step, right, he covered the entire universe, and his feet. You see, the universe is a Brahmanda. It's covered like it's a circular shape, and it's covered by earth, water, fire, air, ether. These layers, which are 10 times bigger than their next layer. So when he put his second step, right, the feet, right, I mean, there's no picture I can show. The feet pierce through the universe. One step below, one step on top, it pierces through the universe. And because it pierces through the universe, right, this is the material world. Beyond this is the Garbhoda ocean, where Mahavishnu is lying down. That water from the Garbhoda ocean, which Karana ocean, Karana Dakshai Vishnu is there. So that water pierced and came through that universal covering, and that is Ganga. So it's very, very purified. That water is so purified, so pure. Because that is the water where the Lord is lying down. Like now we are drinking Charnamrita, right? What is this Charnamrita? It is the morning we are doing Abhishek of the Lord, and we are drinking that water which touches His body. It is so pure. And same time when that water came through, it was touching Vamanadev's feet. He was washing his feet and coming downwards. So it was so pure and so auspicious that it has washed the feet of the Lord. There's a verse actually in the I don't know how to find that verse. In the 3rd canto, if you can find, Prabhu, find this verse. Shivo Shivoham something in the 3rd canto is talking about the Ganga. You see, so anyway, the Ganga is touching the feet of the Lord. It is coming down, and same time when the water was coming, when Vamanadev put his feet like that, right, Lord Brahma is also doing Abhishek for that feet with his Kamandalu, and that water is also Ganga mixed together. You see, so this Ganga was traveling in the heavenly realm. It did not come to the earth. It was just in the upper planetary systems. I think the name is Mandakini. So one day, what happened? In earth, there was a king. His name is Sagara. You see, so this king was can say he's a pious king. So he had 2 wives. One of his wives is Sumati. One of his wives is Kesani. You see, so from Sumati, he had 60,000 children. And of course, if you read it, some of the details are not there in Bhagavatam. These are all in the 9th canto, 9:6. So 60,000 children. If you read in the Ramayana, the book we have, the Ramayana book, right, it is said that the 60,000 children were born. They were not born normally like that. They were born as a goud. I think like a bitter gourd, that shape is like that, So the mother don't know what to do. She took all this gold and put inside the, what do you call that, pots with ghee, So you can see, like, even those days, the technology, they had test tube babies, So like that, they not only now we have this IVF and all this test tube baby, whatever. Those days also they had. Even you see the Kauravas, they were born like that. Gandhari, she put them into the 100 pots. So these 60,000 children, they grew up. They came out of the pot as normal. And the other wife, the wife named Kesani, she had a son called Asamaja. Is it Asamaja Vedan? Let me see. Yeah, Asamaja. So one boy, one son, and 60,000, 2 wives. So these 60,000 people, they were very in a mode of ignorance. They were causing a lot of havoc and destruction to the earth. They were causing a lot of trouble to the earth. and many people did not like them, this prince. And the other boy, he was okay, and he had a son called Amsuman. Sorry. So Amsuman was the grandson of Sagara, from the other one son, right? So he was very pious. Everybody liked him. He was very much in the mode of goodness. He was very ideal character, as how a king should be. So one day, this Sagara, he wanted to do the Ashwamedha Yagya. Because as a king, if you want to be the emperor of the world, you have to do a Ashwamedha Yagya. And when you do this Yagya, only then all the other kings have to recognize that you are the emperor of the world. So in the Ashwamedha Yagya, what happens is you have to sacrifice a horse. Of course, the horse won't die. The horse goes into the fire and comes out with a new body. Those days they had that power. Now we can't do that kind of sacrifice. We don't have that. And also the horse, before that, will travel around the world. So the horse will go every country. And if you challenge the horse, if you capture the horse, the king must fight you and defeat you. If you let the horse pass through, it means that now you allow the king to be the emperor of you. You see, like same thing happened when Maharaj Yudhishthira, he did the Ashwamedha Yagya. Everybody agreed, let him be the king, because he was the most ideal king. Duryodhana also agreed, but of course behind he did all this backstabbing he did. So anyway, in this case, what happened? Indra, he got very perturbed, because Indra is always afraid. Because to be Indra, you have to do 100 Ashwamedha Yagya. Indra is a position. Anybody, you also can be Indra. Well, of course, in Kali Yuga, you can't do these things. So Indra is always afraid. Anybody doing a sacrifice, he is afraid, I'm going to lose my position. So earlier we are talking about anxiety and fear, right? Not only you as human beings have this fear, not only animals. Even if you are in a heavenly planet, you have this fear. If not, why Indra is afraid? You know how he lost to Bali Maharaj the kingdom of heaven? Because Bali Maharaj did the sacrifice and Bali Maharaj took over Indra. So Indra has always this fear. Whenever somebody is doing something, he has information and he will come and disturb. He'll do something to stop the sacrifice. Many times if you see the Bhagavatam, he did that. So in this case also, Sagara is doing the sacrifice. Indra comes and the horse is travelling around the world. Indra comes as a Rakshasa and kidnaps this horse. And then Sagara, he's wondering how come the horse hasn't come back. That means he understood that somebody is not agreeing him to be the king of the world. So he sends his 60,000 sons to find where is this horse. And then they go everywhere and they cause a big destruction. They are digging the ground like anything. They're digging everywhere, they're finding everywhere, they cannot find, they're digging. There's so much of holes in the land. And so many animals are dying because of these 60,000 sons. And then the father and all the demigods, they were very disturbed that, these people, they are causing so much of destruction on the earth. They went and asked Brahma what to do, what's happening. How do we stop these men, these 60,000 children? So Brahma said, when the earth is in trouble, who comes? Yada yada hi dharmasya glane bhavati bharata apyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Krishna will come. The earth is under the protection of the Lord. The Lord will come. Don't worry. Now the Lord is in earth as Kapila Dev. So this is happening at the time of Kapila Dev. So Kapila Dev is there. He's in the ashram. He's meditating. Kapila Dev is avatar of the Lord who taught the Sankhya Yoga philosophy. Son of Devahuti. So he came as a form of Lord came as a great rishi, Muni. So the Lord is actually in the ashram meditating. And then what happens? Indra goes and put this horse there. And he runs away. So the 60,000 people, they are finding, they cannot find. Finally they come to Kapila ashram. And they saw the Lord there meditating and they saw the horse there. And they got so angry. They said, this sadhu, this rishi would have stolen the horse without even asking a question. So this is the thing, when you feel somebody has done anything wrong, you must inquire first. You cannot immediately assume that they are the one and then you attack them and then you will get the offense and then you will fall down. So you have to be very clear, especially a sadhu, a devotee, and of course here is the Supreme Lord. They are accusing the Supreme Lord of stealing the horse without even inquiring anything. So they immediately took their weapons and said, let's kill him. And the Lord, of course the Lord, he by his mystic power, the Lord did not do anything. But because of their offense, you see, there is a fire, there's Agni in our stomach, right? That fire of digestion in our body. So that fire immediately inflamed them and burned all of them into pieces. They all became ashes like that. So you see, if you want to attack a sadhu, you will kill yourself. Even they don't do anything also, you will destroy yourself by attacking a sadhu. So Vaishnava Aparad is very dangerous. Just like the story of Haridas Thakur. They were whipping him in the marketplace. And those people who whipped him, right? Of course, Haridas Thakur did not take the punishment. He said, no, forgive them, my Lord, forgive them. But all those people, all of them, they died. And of course, if you see, this is a bit of a controversial point, but Prabhupada also mentioned, like, there are many people who got killed in the World War II, the Jews. So he said, it's because of the offense to Jesus Christ, which happened how many years ago? 2,000 years, 3,000 years ago. So the offense never leaves you, see. You get punished in some life. And if you see the story of Jesus, he was crucified by all these people. So in World War, they're getting, how far, you see, the offense is still going on. So anyway, they all got burned. And now Sagara is waiting and seeing what happened. Where are these 60,000 boys? They haven't come. You see? So Asamaja, the son, he actually left the forest. He's no more in the kingdom. So the grandson only is there, Amsuman, the other sons. So he tells Amsuman, you go and find where are these boys, what happened to them, go and make an inquiry. So he goes around the world, and then finally he comes to the ashram and he see all these ashes there. And then he approaches the Rishi, Kapila Dev, and he offers prayers. This is the Supreme Lord. See, only a devotee can see who is the Lord. They are non-devotees. They do not know this is the Supreme Lord, you see. They try to attack him. Whereas here is a pure devotee, he sees, oh, this is the Lord. And immediately he starts offering prayers and glorifying the Lord. And after he glorified the Lord opened his eyes, and the Lord says that these people, they want to attack him. And this is what happened to them. For their offense, they got burnt. So he says, how can I deliver them then? How can I help them? You see? Now, you see how he's thinking. We are just thinking about ourselves. How can I help myself only? How can I be benefiting myself? But the Vedic culture is such that even they are thinking how to deliver the forefathers. That is Vedic culture. This is called Arya. An Aryan, he wants to deliver even his forefathers. If you see, this is spoken by Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. (141) in the purport. We'll just see in the purport. So anyway, this Arjuna is arguing with Krishna. If we have a war, we kill everyone, all the men will die. Then who will do the sacrifice for the forefathers? Who will help the forefathers? But of course, Krishna wanted the war because he did not want the evil person to rule as a king, Duryodhana. You see. So anyway, we'll see this purport. Prabhupada is saying that according to the rules and regulations of fruitive activities, there is need to offer periodical food and water to the forefathers of the family. This offering is performed by worship of Vishnu, because eating the remnants of food offered to Vishnu can deliver one from all kinds of suffering, of sinful actions. Sometimes the forefathers may be suffering from various types of sinful reactions, and sometimes some of them cannot even acquire a gross material body and are forced to remain in subtle bodies as ghosts. Thus, when remnants of prasadam are offered to the forefathers by the descendant of the forefathers are released from ghostly or all other kinds of miserable life. Such help rendered to forefathers in family tradition, and those who are not in devotional life are required to perform such rituals. So you see, many people, right, when they pass away, they will say, oh, you have to go to the Shivan temple, you have to do some puja. But that's not true. The only way you can help the forefathers, you must offer Krishna or Vishnu prasadam to them. Doing any other puja for even Shiva also doesn't help the soul. You see, according to these words. So we have to follow Shastra. We cannot speculate on our own. So what they do is usually, what you have to do is you have to offer the Pinda Puja, right, or offer Vishnu Prasadam to the deceased person. But here Prabhupada makes another point that this is not required for those who are devotees. Why? Why is it not required? One who is engaged in devotional life is not required to perform such action. Simply by performing devotional service, one can deliver hundreds and thousands of forefathers from all kinds of misery. It is stated in Bhagavatam 11.541, Devarashi Bhutapna Nirnam Pitri Na Kikkaram Nayanam Rinicha Rajan Sarvatmanaya Sharanam Gato Mukundam Pariharta Kartam. Anyone who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, the giver of liberation, giving up all kinds of obligation, and has taken to the path of all seriousness, owes neither duties nor obligations to the demigods, sages, general and living entities, family members, humankind, or forefathers. Such obligations are automatically fulfilled by performance of devotional service to the Supreme Personality Godhead. So if you are a devotee and you are chanting every day, you are doing 16 rounds, you are following the Krishna consciousness process, being initiated, seriously practicing, you do not require to do all these duties, because there are duties that you have to do, which is to serve. You're obligated to the devatas because they're giving you so much of rain, sunshine, food. I think everything is free. Nothing is free. You owe them. And if you don't give back to them, you become a thief. Stainer. So, being a devotee, automatically you are satisfying the demigods also. Chanting Krishna's name, automatically they are satisfied. Yato tara mula nisheshane. By watering the root of the tree is automatically fulfilled. Same way, you also owe to the sages, because they given you so many of these Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, so many, the sadhus, they give us so much. General living entities, we are taking so many things from everyone. See, this is the wood, we are taking from the tree, right? Water, everything is taken from, we are borrowing from so many things, and family members, and humankind, and forefathers. All these people you have obligation for. But if you chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. If you do that, automatically you fulfill all your debts. You see? So now back to the story. Why we are bringing up this point is Amsuman, he is thinking how he can save his forefathers. So for him, it's a very difficult task. He has to bring Ganga to the earth. You don't need to do that. You just chant Hare Krishna. Very easy for you, So don't worry. So now he tried his best. He goes on. He tells his father Sagara that this has happened. The only way is I have to bring Ganga to the earth. Then the father realized now he's too old to wait for Ganga to come. He says, I'm going to the forest. I'm going to meditate on Krishna, and I'm going to go back to the spiritual world. So the father retires. Sagara retires. He follows the advice of Prahlad Maharaj. Vanam gato yat harim asrayeta. Goes to the forest. So Sagara tries his best to do it. He cannot do it. Amsuman tries to do it. He cannot do it. Amsuman has a son. His name is Dilipa. Dilipa also tries. He also cannot do it. He does so much of austerity and penance. See, they sacrifice their life just to help their forefathers, you see. How much of selfless. Dilipa's son, after he passes away, Dilipa's son Bhagiratha, you may know this name. Bhagiratha, he performed so much of severe austerities to satisfy Ganga to come. Finally, the third generation, Bhagiratha, after satisfying Ganga, she agrees to come. But she has two conditions. She says, if I want to come onto this earth, there is two conditions. Number one, my force is so great, you see, that the earth will be destroyed. The earth is like that. The water will just pierce through the earth and it will be destroyed. So who's going to handle this pressure? And for that answer, we'll see that verse now.
3:28, 32.
Okay, later I'll show. 3:28, 22, right? We'll see this verse here, 994. Mother Ganga replied, when I fall from the sky to the surface of the planet Earth, the water will certainly be very forceful. Who will sustain that force? If I'm not sustained, I shall pierce the surface of the earth and go down to Rasatala and Patala area of the universe. That's how powerful the force of Ganga is. Number 2, what she says, why I don't want to come down, you see here. O king, I do not wish to go down to the planet earth, for there are people in general who will bath in my water to cleanse themselves of the reaction of their sinful deeds. When all these sinful reactions accumulate in me, how shall I become free from them? You must consider this very carefully. This is the twist here. That Ganga herself, we are going to Ganga, why? Oh, we must go to Ganga and bathe because we want to cleanse our sin. And here she is saying, I am afraid of all these sinful reactions that will accumulate in me. How shall I become free from them? She, Ganga, who is coming from the lotus feet of Krishna, who is so auspicious, she is saying, I am afraid of the sin of all these people on earth. Now, what is that verse? 3?
28, 22.
Yes. So you see the power of Ganga, you can, the power of Ganga is explained here. I cannot chant like Tatvit Prabhu, so I am just going to the translation, because this one has a tune for this. The blessed Lord Shiva becomes all the more blessed by bearing on his head the holy waters of the Ganges, which has its source in the water that has washed the lotus feet of the Lord's lotus feet. You see? What is that? Sanskrit. Yakchautan Nishtra Srahit Prabodhakena Tirthena is pilgrimage. Murtni is head. Adikritena Shivo Bhut. The Ganga is so pure that even Shiva is auspicious, right? The word Shiva means auspicious. But he becomes even more auspicious by resting the Ganga on his head. Can you imagine how powerful Ganga is? It's a Tirthena, it's a place of pilgrimage. Because why? It's coming from the lotus feet of Krishna. Unfortunately, that Ganga herself saying, I cannot handle this sin of the people. We continue the verse. Dhyatur mana samala salila nishta vachram Dhyayet chiram bhagavata sharanara says that the Lord's feet acts like a thunderbolt hurled to shatter a mountain of sins stored in the mind of the meditating devotee. The sins we are committing is not like this, mountains. We have committed so much of sin, it's like mountain size. But the Lord's lotus feet, thunderbolt, the Indra's thunderbolt can just destroy the mountain like that. Smash the mountain. So the Lord's lotus feet can smash the mountains of sin which have accumulated in our heart. So one should therefore meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord for a long time. A long time. Not just Hare Krishna, okay, finish. Always. Satatam kirtayanto mam. Always meditating on the pastimes of the Lord. Then only the sins will go. So here, why we are showing this verse? Because we are showing how Ganga is so powerful that she is able to destroy that sins also. But she is saying, I cannot handle this. Go back to the verse 995. I cannot handle it. So what is the answer? By Bhagiratha. Bhagiratha is saying here, that, of course, the answer is for the pressure, to handle that pressure, Lord Shiva, if you read on, he will satisfy Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva will agree that, yes, I will come and handle that pressure of Ganga on my head. And for the next answer he gives, what about the sins of all the people who deposit on me? Bhagiratha says, those who are saintly because of devotional service and therefore in the renounced order, free from material desires, and who are pure devotees, expert in following regulative principles mentioned in the Vedas, these are all qualities of a pure devotee, are always glorified and are pure in behavior, are able to deliver all fallen souls. When such pure devotees bathe in your water, the sinful reactions accumulated from other people will certainly be counteracted, for such devotees always keep in the core of their heart the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can vanquish all sinful reactions. So what does this mean? It means that the sadhu, today we are talking about the verse, right? Yajñātvana punarmoham. Not only he can disperse the illusion of you, he can also purify Ganga. A pure devotee is so powerful that he has the ability to cleanse all the sins of Ganga. So that means, what does it mean? It means you should not just plan a trip to Ganga. You should plan a trip how to serve a pure devotee, how to surrender to the pure devotee. That is how you should. Because if you can go to the Ganga and bathe for, you can see it, this verse here. Is it this verse? Sorry, 1:15. You can see this verse here. Yatpada samsraya shuta munaya prashamanaya sadhya punati upaprishta sadhurni aponu nusevaya. O Sutta, those great sages who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord can at once sanctify those who come in touch with them, whereas the waters of the Ganges can sanctify only after prolonged use. So you can go and shower in the Ganges again and again and again, but that is a very, very long process. It may even take lifetimes. But if you surrender unto a pure devotee of the Lord, all your sins are just destroyed. Just like when we take initiation, Prabhupada is taking away all that sin. But of course you cannot sin again. You must be very, and that's why we worship the spiritual master like as good as God. Because what he is doing for you, you cannot pay back the debt. Because we were talking earlier, right? You have mountains of sins, and he is destroying all those mountains like that. You know? And not only that, by him going to the Ganga is getting relief. You can understand the power of a pure devotee now. You know, limitless, unlimited mercy. You know, so we can see another verse here that what if you go to the Ganga just to shower? What happens? It's in the Bhagavatam. Yashatma bhuti kuna petri dhatuke Swadikkalatradishu bhauma ichati yat tirtha buddhi shalinena karichit janeshu abhikeshu shaeva ghokaraha. So what says here? One who identifies himself as the inert body composed of mucus, bile and air, who assumes his wife and family are permanently his own, who thinks an earthen image or land of his birth is worshipable, or who sees a place of pilgrimage merely as water there, but who never identifies himself, feels kinship with worship, or even visit those who are wise in spiritual truth, such a person is no better than a cow or an ass. If you just go to the Ganga just to swim, just to bathe and say, oh, my sin is gone, you're no better than a cow or an ass. Saeva gokaraha. You see? So this is what we can learn from the power of a sadhu. So what we should do? We should follow in the footsteps of Maharaj Parikshit. What Maharaj Parikshit did, he knew that he was going to die, right? He knew he was going to die in 7 days. So where he went? Immediately he went to the Ganga. Not only to shower in the Ganga, but he wanted to go to the Ganga to find the sadhus and associate with them and hear the Bhagavatam. And that is the exact spot Sukadev Goswami came. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ki. So here you see this verse, the river Ganges, by which the king sat to fast, carries the most auspicious water, which is mixed with the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord and tulasi. Therefore, that water sanctifies the three worlds, inside and outside, and even sanctifies Lord Shiva and other demigods. Consequently, everyone who is destined to die must take shelter of this river. So why he says like that? Not just take shelter of the river. Today we learn that we have to take shelter of the sadhus, the pure devotees because the pure devotees live by the Ganga. In fact, they carry the Ganga in their heart. Huh? This pure. Now you thinking that you have to go to the Ganga and bathe to get rid of your sins. But if you take shelter of the pure devotee, like Prabhupada, the Ganga is directly here also. What is that verse? Bhavad vida bhagavata tirtha bhuta swayam vibho tirti kurvanti tirtani swantastena ghada pratha. Bhagavad vida bhagavatas. Oh Lord, oh my Lord, my Lord, devotees like your good self are verily holy places personified. They carry the holy places with them because they carry Hari in the heart. Because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart, you turn all places into of pilgrimage. And that is the power of a pure devotee. They can even go to a place like Dubai or whatever. They can make that place into, like Prabhupada, he went to America, which is so sinful. The height of materialism is found in America, and here he went there in 70 years old, and he transformed that whole place into a place of pilgrimage. That's the power of a pure devotee. He brought Ganga with him. He brought Vrindavan with him. He brought Mayapur with him. You see? So that person you take shelter of to come out of this material world. So this spiritual master thing is not just a simple thing. It's not a joke. From this story itself, you can see how great they are. From the story of Ganga. And finally, the final point I want to make is, there was a story as well, where in Kumbh Mela, when Prabhupada was present on the earth, there was Kumbh Mela. So Kumbh Mela happens every 12 years, at Prayag, right? There are what are the three rivers that merge together? Huh? 4 places. Yeah. So they went to Prayag, Prabhupada went to Prayag with all the devotees. So 3 rivers come together, right? If I'm not wrong. What is that? Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati. These 3 rivers come together. So everybody comes to bathe in that river to cleanse their sin. All the sadhus of India, millions and millions of people, 70 million people in one place. The most crowded religious festival in the world. So at the time, Prabhupada also went there with all the devotees. They have a ISKCON tent, and they were sitting inside the tent, and they had a dip also in the water. And what happened in the next day, a person from another sampradaya came with a bowl of water, of the Ganga water, and he came to the ISKCON tent, and Prabhupada was sitting there, and he took the bowl of water, he went to Prabhupada's feet and he washed it. He washed his feet, and everybody was watching him, and he said that everybody comes here to bathe in the Ganga to cleanse their sins, but they don't realize that because you are bathing in the Ganga, their sins are going. So he said, I'm going to take this water that I washed your feet, I'm going to pour this back into Ganga and help her. So this person understood the power of a pure devotee like Prabhupada. And all the devotees, they were watching this and they learned something like, wow, our spiritual master, he's not ordinary person. He's here not everybody is there to wash their sins, but Prabhupada is there to purify Ganga. You see? That is the power of a pure devotee. That is the power of a spiritual master like Prabhupada. And so you must understand how great that favor he has done. Life after life, we have suffering, so many sins and so much of suffering, and he has saved us like that. So we have so much to do for him. We cannot just take it easy. We must do our spiritual duty very seriously. We must, and of course, of all the things, we have to try our best to please him by preaching, because that is something he always wanted, that we should distribute these books, we should make more devotees. So as much as possible, you try to do that, you realize that Krishna will very much become dear to you. So try your best. Don't New Year, like I said, New Year there's a resolution every time that according to statistics it only lasts for 25 days. So don't make this New Year, make a resolution now and make it a habit for your lifetime. Make sure you read daily Prabhupada books 1 hour a day. Now we are talking about preaching, that is in another level. how you suddenly preach if you do not know how to preach. So you read, you have to read the books every day 1 hour, and that has to flow in your blood. And when when Prabhupada words flow in you, then you can open your mouth and preach. If not, it's very. So everybody's duty, he sweat, blood, sweat and tears he spilled to write all these books for us. And then he's just sitting there in our app like that. So difficult to get this book in those days. So you read those books, read every day, then you get the strength, then you understand this knowledge, then you can help people also come out of this sin. Like Bhagirath, he wanted to help his forefathers bring Ganga here to purify them. The same way, we have to help the people of this world to come out of this material world and sinful life by giving the Ganga which is flowing from the mouth of Prabhupada, which is his books. So this is our duty. Okay. So we will end this class here. Anybody have any questions or points, comments to be raised? We'll just finally one last verse before we wrap up. This is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Bhakta Pada Duliyara Bhakta Pada Chala Bhakta Bhukta Aveshesha Tina Mahabala. What this means? The dust of the feet of the devotee, the water that has washed the feet of a devotee, and the remnants of food left by a devotee are three powerful substances. So the dust of the feet means, dust doesn't mean that just you go and take the dust and put on your head. Yeah, you can do that, but the real dust means following in his footsteps, following his instructions. That is the dust. If you take the dust, if you follow his instruction, is as good as taking the dust. You see? Like, and then as we discussed, when you do that, you become purified. You come out of this illusion of this material world. And the water that has washed the feet of the devotee. So earlier we were talking about the story of how the devotee washed Prabhupada's feet and put it into the Ganga. And the remnants of the food left by the devotee. If you are fortunate enough to take the remnants of their food, like Narada Muni, he took the remnants of the sadhus as a small boy. Next life he became Narada Muni. So these are very powerful substances we can, especially the first one we have to do. The other two is quite difficult, but follow in the footsteps of Prabhupada and follow in the devotees who are teaching how to do that. We, just like now in ISKM we have Sundar Gopal Prabhu as Siksha instruction. So follow his instruction and you will please Prabhupada like that. So we will end here. If there's nothing else, we will stop here. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande.